breaking and healing that instinct, that reaction gave me myself back. You know, in my work with hundreds of leaders and thousands of families, the number one thing that I have seen hold people back from realizing their potential is that they don't know who they are. Now, the reason I can spot this and clock it a mile away is because this has been my story too. I lived most of my life not knowing who I was, and because of that, I was out of alignment with my values, had no idea what my real dreams are, and was not able to take action on the life that I really wanted to live because I didn't know what it looked like. Now, a lot of you may be here because you know me from my TED Talk, or you know me over on Instagram where I talk a lot about work with vulnerable communities. And on this channel, I wanted to do something just a bit different. I wanted to dive deeper and give you the full behind the scenes as to how I got here, how I can help you, and to honestly just be of better service. So a lot of you guys, again, have seen my TED Talk where I'm talking about well-being and how I realize that is the one thing that if we all focus on will create so much unity, create a movement of health, and also help people just have a better quality of life right here, right now. What I didn't talk about in that TED Talk was how I got lost in the first place. You guys heard how I have anxiety, how I had depression, but you didn't see exactly what brought me to that point. And I could pull multiple threads and storylines. Maybe I'll save some of it for my book. But what I do want to share with you, just giving you a sneak peek, is that there are 3 main reasons why I believe I was totally lost. And those 3 reasons were that I didn't know my own values, I did not know my worth separate from my work, and I truly did not understand how to love myself without looking for it from the love of other people. Now, I'm going to dig through all 3 of these so that you can really get a sense of what they mean, and hopefully they're relevant to you, because I'm telling this story not for my sake, but because I want you to know you're not alone. And if you recognize yourself in any of these 3 areas, I want to first send you love, and second, just remind you that there's real work you can do to get out of this. So, the first one that I mentioned was that I didn't know my own values. Now, y'all, your girl grew up first generation Caribbean daughter, immigrant mother, multi-generational black Memphis father, and long story short, between their parenting, growing up in the church, and Disney Channel's chokehold on my family, y'all, the values that I learned were some amalgamation of those. And I thought that if I was good enough, responsible enough, and worked hard enough, that I would have this like amazing group of best friends. I would be with my family forever in this life and the next. And that if I worked hard enough, I would ultimately be worthy of having fun in life and living the glamorous life of a Disney Channel kid. There were so many reasons this was not true, but most importantly, what I realized was that those values fit like somebody else's clothes. Now, this isn't to say that I don't adore my family and I don't adore my friends. I absolutely do. But the means of getting their love that was shown to me through the church that I was at, through Disney Channel, etc., was completely self-sacrificial. It was give every single thing that you have, give every single thing that you are, and in return, you will get love. In return, you will be worthy. And funny enough, especially for those of y'all who are faith-based, you realize, like, as you get older, 1, that leads to exhaustion, and 2, it's simply not true. You are worthy of love just because you exist. You are worthy of healthy connection simply because you are. And because you're looking to offer it, right? Like, it's so wild to me that people who are givers, which most of you watching are the same people that will give everything they have, but not expect mutual effort in return. So on one side, you understand that people are worthy of goodness because you'll give it. But for whatever reason, our logic breaks down when it comes to us, and we believe that we're the only ones not worthy of forgiveness, not worthy of goodness, not worthy of mercy and grace, and you name it. Well, that's simply not true. And the longer you stay in not knowing the truth of your own worthiness, which is undeniable, it's actually not even up to you. You don't have the power to decide the worthiness of a life, but we can get into that later. But the longer you deny that truth, the longer and the deeper distance you create between who you actually are and how you understand yourself to be. The reason that this matters at its core is that when you don't know who you are, when you don't know the brilliance of your being, of your spirit, of your life, you will diminish it. You will live beneath what you're worth. And when you do that, the quality of your life is simply not the same. It's not as good as it could be. And for me, that was very true. And some of the signs are anxiety, are depression, are PTSD, you name it. Now, this moves me to the second part, where I thought that I could outwork those feelings. The feelings of not feeling worthy, the feelings of feeling like I just would never be good enough, or that my effort wouldn't be good enough unless I continued to work. And if I wasn't of service, then it didn't matter. So I took this and, of course, take my values and add an aggressive good kid complex, and you have a machine for burnout. You have a machine that is absolutely going to have you in burnout. And y'all, I lived in burnout for almost a decade. And you're like, Chloe, you're so young. Yes. And it's not just me. Before the pandemic, 59% of millennials reported that they were burnt out. After the pandemic, that number skyrocketed to over 82%. Gen Z was worse. Y'all, you don't have to be old and crusty and burnt, like to be burnt out, right? You can be young and crusty and burnt out. It is not age dependent. It is absolutely about how you see yourself, how you spend your time, how you nourish your spirit, your mind, your body, your social life, your financial health, etc. It's absolutely about how well you take care of yourself. So, for me, I was becoming the leader of everything, the captain of everything, you name it. And it wasn't because I just wanted the title. I wanted to do the most work for the most people so that I could be worthy. And if we're taking it all the way back, it was really so that I could be worthy of the afterlife and to be able to stay with my family, because that's what I was scared of losing. I was scared that in eternity, I wouldn't have my family. And now, while those values are something that I shifted as I grew older, the core kind of workaholism that leads to worthiness that would hopefully let me keep the thing that I love the most, that really permeated into every area of my life. I became an ultra giver, which, y'all, I know a lot of you on here are. Hey, I see you, I love you, and we're breaking this. But I became an ultra giver where I felt compelled to, if I saw a problem, I needed to fix it. And if I saw a challenge that I could uniquely solve, I read it as I had to be the one to step in. Or even not that I could uniquely solve, if I could, then I should. That is also a recipe for burnout, but it's a recipe for losing who you are and replacing your self-image with tasks, with responsibilities, with duty. Now, it's not to say that task, responsibility, and duty are bad things. Obviously, we need them. But when they control an outsized portion of your life, and when they replace your identity and your worthiness, that's when it becomes a problem. Or in psychological terms, that's when it becomes disordered. And I think that that is such an important distinction, to realize that you are not your work. You are not your service, right? These are things that you choose to spend your time doing. And when you choose to spend your time, you have to understand that your time, how you use it, and who you are, they're separate. I didn't know this. And because of that, again, I was overworking myself, overcommitting myself, believing that if I showed up and was a role for everybody else, then eventually it would come back and I would understand who I am. I think there's a sociological, there's a sociological theory, and I'm a little fuzzy on the name, but I'm pretty sure it's the looking glass self. I'll put a note in here if it's not exactly the looking glass self, but I'm pretty sure it is. And that basically is a construct where you put together your identity based on the pieces or the feedback that other people give you. It's how you see it's basically you looking through someone else's picture. I mean, if somebody else drew a picture of you, you would look at it and say, that's me. That's what I'm trying to say. Where the reality is, you need to look at yourself through your own eyes. not through other people's eyes. So this includes like your people's cultural expectations, your cultural expectations, people's expectations from your relationship, people's expectations from you at work, from your organization, what have you. All the expectations and projections that people send your way, for people who don't know who they are, they take it as their own identity. And again, I know I am super culprit to this. And breaking and healing that instinct, that reaction, gave me myself back. It showed me who I actually am. And spoiler, it raised a lot of frustration in my life when I realized how many people's expectations and projections I had allowed myself to shoulder. Now, I want to talk to you about the last piece that really, and this one, y'all, in addition to the other two of not knowing my values and not knowing my identity outside of what I produce, in addition to those two, this third variable made it so difficult to know who I was before I did the work. And that was, y'all, your girl was in love. Y'all, I was so in love. My little high school heart thought I had found the answer to life. I knew my life path. I knew what my future would look like from 16 through 96. I felt like I had my bag. And y'all, there's nothing negative I would say about my first love. And in fact, having that first love gave me an awesome foundation of confidence through high school, helped me probably stay out of like people's attention that I did not need to be in, right? I have nothing bad to say about my first love. I will say that we started growing apart in college, and to make a long story short, there were ways that I wanted more out of my relationship in long distance. And when I had a cancer scare as a sophomore, my partner could not show up for me because his mom had just gone through the same thing. And at that point, between wanting more out of the relationship, wanting more communication, and knowing that in one of the most serious moments of my life, my partner had not done their own work and or could not show up for me in what really was a life or death situation. So because of that, the person I had been with for 5 to 10 years, if you know, you know, we broke up. And I had to figure out the fact that I didn't know who I was outside of the relationship, one, but then two, when I realized that, who was I? Who was I with these values that had been passed down to me, with me believing that what I produce made up how much I'm worth, and then me having put all my eggs, all my spiritual eggs in this relationship where the basket broke. And I had to have this moment of what some people will call a rock bottom, but really I call it step one of understanding that, okay, I'm not in that relationship anymore and I'm still here. I'm too burnt out after college to produce, but I'm still here. And 3, I met so many amazing people. My values have seriously changed and my loved ones are still here. I am still here. And the way that I view the world is more compassionate, which has to be a good thing. So if all the things that I thought made me up got broken over a period of years, and yet I was still here, it showed me that those things that I put so much stock in, those values I thought had to be the truth, that love that I thought would be my entire life, they weren't me. Because I'm still here. You know what I'm saying? So, y'all, I laugh because it's funny now. But the amount of seriousness your girl held these things with, and I don't blame my past self. Like, there was no reason I would have thought otherwise. But I say all this to say to you that if you are someone who's living other people's values for your life, if you believe that you are some of what you produce, or if you believe that relationship, that job, that title, that destination is what makes you up, you are going to constantly be chasing things that are external to create the narrative that is internal, right? What I mean by that is you're going to be chasing things that are out of your control and hoping they tell you who you are, hoping that they tell you that you're worthy, hoping that they tell you something to make you feel good in this life, when the truth is that's backwards. You have to know who you are. You have to know that you are intrinsically worthy just because you exist. And you have to know how to spend your time in ways that match your values, live up to the worthiness of who you actually are, and shape your life in the ways that you want them to. Now, there's actually a bonus fourth element that I didn't talk to you today about because I wanted to put it in another video. It deserves its own time, and this video would be 80 minutes long if I kept it all in one. So make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell, because I'm going to tell you in this next video what my mental health journey looked like in terms of how I learned about it, the work of what I did, and all the things between being lost to delivering the TED Talk that y'all have seen. So I cannot wait to see you in that next video. Now, I also know that if you watch this far, you're a real one. And because of that, I want to mentor you every single week. So, and if you've seen me on Instagram, which if you haven't, go connect with your girl. But if you see me on Instagram, you guys already know the only reason I'm on social media, truly the only reason I'm on social media, is to show up for you. When I was in the thicket of feeling lost, but knowing there had to be another way, I promised myself when I figured it out, I would teach other people to do the same. Now, about 10 years later, I'm at the place where I am ready to teach other people how to do the same, to give you your own roadmap on how to make your version of Forbes 30 Under 30, to deliver your TED Talk, to help your communities, to heal, to build wealth, and to lead impact. That's really what it is. So check the description bar beneath this video, because it shows you all the ways that I will mentor you each week for free. And with that, I'll see you in the next video.